Let's get more on all of the questions that Toed raised there with our guest. Zohreh Kharazmi is an associate professor at the Faculty of World Studies at the University of Tehran. She joins us from the Iranian capital, and from London, Rob Geist Pinfold. He's a lecturer in international security at King's College London. A very warm welcome to both of you. Rob, if I can start with you, because we're in this, what do we call it, a diplomatic impasse at the moment. Efforts appear to have neither completely failed nor succeeded. Do both sides at least agree that they don't want to return to conflict, Rob?
Yeah. For the time being, neither side wants a return to direct conflict. Both sides are, of course, hedging their bets and basically trying to portray an image of themselves ready for another round and stronger than their adversaries, of course. But once you scratch beneath the surface, there's little incentive for either side to return to a direct conflict. The US, as we've seen in your reports here today, is very much feeling the pinch of this war. So even though it's tried to make itself less reliant on the Strait of Hormuz, American voters are still feeling the after effects of this conflict. Gas prices, for example, are at a 4-year high, whereas within Iran itself, there is a feeling that I'm sure that my guest with me will be able to articulate this further. But there seems to be a feeling that Iran has done relatively well out of this war, but at the same time, it has little to gain from returning to war. Yes, its military assets have been degraded. It needs time to regroup. And at the same time, it's still managing to exercise significant control over the Strait of Hormuz. Despite the US naval blockade, ships are still, the daily passage of ships is around 13%. So neither side really feels like it has to, that its adversary has the upper side of things at the moment, which is why both sides are digging in their heels. No one wants to go back to war, but no one wants to be the first one to make a compromise.
Zohreh, putting that to you, does the leadership in Iran feel that it has to a certain extent the upper hand, because the IRGC is repeatedly claiming that it's been victorious?
Actually, it is, because even the blockade was coming from a sort of desperation in the American decision makers that in the military side, they could not really have the upper hand. They tried to steal the enriched uranium stockpile in Isfahan, and they failed there. So it indicates that they're trying, actually, they're Kurdish mercenaries for the ground invasion, and they failed. So this blockade was another actually act to try to repair their distorted image. So I think that even in applying the blockade for a long time, the United States would have lots of problems, and the global markets and the upcoming midterm elections are all pressuring Trump to end it soon.
Rob, how do we square what we've just heard from Zohreh there, this kind of level of comfort in Iran about how they have prosecuted this war, given the severe degradation of Iran's military, given the assassination of the former supreme leader and very senior figures in both the political wing and the military, and of course the immense pressure on the Iranian economy right now? I mean, is sovereignty worth potentially the collapse of Iran's entire economic system, Rob?
Well, it depends from what angle you're looking at this, right? Yes, Iran is under significant economic strain. Iran has been subject to a self-imposed internet blackout, for example, since the end of last year and the start of this year because of those protests. And the internet is something that obviously constrains businesses. It makes it very, very difficult to do business. We know that there is an excess of Iranian oil floating around basically the country right now, simply because there's nothing Iran can do with it. There's a backlog of ships destined for Iran who are waiting at the entrance to the Strait of Hormuz simply because they can't go in at the moment because of the US naval blockade. However, if you are the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, this is something that has very much consolidated your position. Remember that the IRGC has frequently managed to exert larger-than-life influence because of conflicts, be that the Iran-Iraq war or the Trump administration's withdrawal from the JCPOA and the 12-day war of last year. So the IRGC has actually done very well out of this conflict. It's managed to consolidate its power over the clerical wing of the Iranian establishment and the political wing of the Iranian establishment as well. And the after effect of that could be a more hardline position in negotiations. Remember that the IRGC is not just special forces or a military, it's more or less a shadow state in itself. Many Iranians are reliant on the IRGC for their paychecks, and the IRGC has traditionally made a robust income out of sanctions busting, for example. So the IRGC actually has plenty of incentives to carry on this conflict, and indeed plenty of incentives to resist sanctions relief as well. So the longer this goes on, the more the balance of power shifts towards that part of Iran's multifaceted political and security establishment.
All right, putting that back to you, Zohreh, obviously the IRGC have been quite successfully...
Sorry, I shouldn't...
Go ahead, Zohreh.
I should enter. First of all, it's a very grossly overestimation when you are talking about the sort of annihilation and destruction of the Iranian economy. At least we know that 200 million barrels of oil that was actually floating overseas has already were sold, and you know that the sanctions structures were very much broken based on the new security paradigm in Hormuz that Iran has an upper hand in. So I think that in coming months, in coming years, you understand that Iran's economy even have new opportunities and partnerships. So I think that this sort of judging, even the assumption, can be rejected easily.
Zohreh, you can't deny, though, the IMF that's come out with its most recent forecast says that Iran's economy will swing into negative figures. It will contract more than it ever has done under many years of Western sanctions. I appreciate putting a brave face on all of this and implying that there are still financial and economic lifelines, I presume from Moscow, I presume from China, but nevertheless, there is a squeeze on particularly middle-class Iranians, while the IRGC continue to mock Donald Trump. Let me put it to you. What about skyrocketing inflation? What about the plummeting rial? What about the freedom of young Iranians to travel abroad, to realize their dreams, to live in a safe country free from fear of intimidation and arrest? All because the Iranian military wing prefer to play with the fortunes of their economy.
No, it is not actually the fact and the reality. It's very much the Western media propagation that trying to show sort of divisions and indicating that, for example, representing IRGC to be actually ordering and actually controlling and commanding this war. You know that Iran, after the assassination of the supreme leader, it has got the new leader that every night people, thousands and millions of people in Tehran and other cities are coming to the streets every night to indicate the support of the Islamic Republic. And this is part of the fact that very much less regarded by the Western media. And also the actually the Supreme National Security Council that has the cabinet, the government, three branches, the representatives of the supreme leader, all actually having the cohort and orchestrated decision making for the war. So IRGC is very much these days appreciated by Iranians for making Iran to be powerful enough to actually make the United States accountable for its irresponsible acts.
Okay, Rob, putting that back to you, is all of this criticism of the IRGC Western media bias, Rob?
No, absolutely not. And to come back to this point, to Zohreh's point here, that the Iranian economy is actually doing fine. Remember that Iran massacred up to 30,000 of its own people, Iran's security forces, in December of last year and January of this year, precisely because they were protesting the dire economic situation in Iran. We don't have the exact facts or figures, but I think it's fair to assume that Iran's economy has not improved and has indeed degraded significantly since the recent conflict begun. So the fact that so many Iranians were willing to protest, so many of them sacrificed their lives, and the Iranian regime was indeed willing to kill thousands of its own countrymen demonstrates the dire economic straits that Iran found itself in before all of this started. So there is an asymmetry of interest here. The IRGC is perfectly happy to kill as many Iranians as it needs to. It's perfectly happy to maintain that war footing. But the longer this goes on, the more this hurts. The more this war continues, this stalemate continues because of the US's refusal to compromise, because of the IRGC and the Iranian leadership's refusal to compromise. It is ordinary Iranians that will keep paying that price.
Zohreh, I expect a response on that. Zohreh, I expect you'd like to reply to those comments from Rob.
Sure. Actually, you see, when you're talking about the January protest, Rob was talking about 30,000, but you know that different estimates were published by the Westerners, 40,000, 45,000. We are well expecting it to increase to 80,000 to whitewash what Israelis did in Gaza, of course. But the reality is on the ground was indicating that the protest, yes, of course, the impact of the American economic terrorism and sanctions is pressuring the ordinary people in Iran. And some were just having dissatisfaction about the economic situation. But they were just those that very soon were separated from the Israeli and American mercenaries who were just blocking the cars in the streets, butchering people, setting fires on the banks and public spaces. So the reality on the ground was absolutely different from the fabricated lies of the Western media and the propagation that I'm sorry that Rob is repeating the same.
All right. Good to hear from both of you on this. A pleasure. Rob Geist Pinfold, lecturer in international security at King's College London, and Zohreh Kharazmi, associate professor at the Faculty of World Studies at the University of Tehran. Thank you.